Step away from the vehicle now. I know you didn't buy this car." The words cut through the Saturday afternoon air at the Grove like a blade. Officer Frank Miller's hand rested on his holster as he stared down at the woman beside the pristine 1967 Mustang. Evelyn Reed, dressed in jeans and a simple blazer, slowly raised her hands. Around them, shoppers stopped. Phones emerged. A circle formed. "Place your hands on the hood," Miller barked, his voice carrying across the upscale outdoor mall's parking lot. "This vehicle matches a stolen car report." Evelyn's designer handbag slid from her shoulder as she complied. Through the car window, a leather portfolio lay on the passenger seat, its official seal barely visible beneath scattered papers. The crowd grew larger, the cameras rolled. 10 minutes until courthouse security realizes Judge Reed is missing from the emergency judicial conference. Officer Miller circled the Mustang like a predator studying prey. His 12 years on the force had taught him to spot inconsistencies. A black woman in casual clothes driving a car worth more than most people's annual salary. The math didn't add up in his mind. "This vehicle is worth more than you make in 5 years, he said, his voice loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. So, let's start with the truth. 20 feet away, a college student named Chloe held her phone steady, live streaming to her TikTok followers. The viewer count climbed 847, 1203, 2456. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read them. "Officer, I can explain," Evelyn began, her voice calm despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "No, ma'am." Miller's hand moved to his radio. "You'll explain to the detectives. Right now. I need to see registration, insurance, and proof of purchase for this vehicle." The crowd pressed closer. Some filmed openly while others pretended to shop, their eyes locked on the unfolding drama. Evelyn noticed an elderly black woman pushing through the gathering, recognition flickering across her weathered face. "That's not—" the woman started. "Step back, ma'am," Miller warned without looking away from Evelyn. "This is police business." Evelyn's phone buzzed against her hip. Chief Justice calling? She couldn't answer. Not with her hand still pressed against the warm metal of her father's restored car, the same car she'd driven to countless family barbecues, the one that carried his memory in every pristine detail. "I'm going to need you to empty your pockets," Miller continued. His backup should arrive soon. Saturday afternoons in this district usually meant simple shoplifting calls, but this felt bigger. This felt like the kind of arrest that made careers. "Officer Miller!" Evelyn read his name tag with deliberate precision. "Badge number 4847. I need you to understand." "What I understand," he interrupted, "is that you're stalling. People who belong with cars like this don't act nervous around the police." The live stream viewer count hit 8932. Chloe's phone battery showed 34%, but she couldn't stop recording. This was the kind of content that changed everything, the real-life stories that exposed the truth about racial profiling in America. Through the Mustang's window, Evelyn's leather portfolio caught the afternoon sunlight. A first-class boarding pass from her recent conference in Washington, D.C. protruded from its side pocket. Next to it, barely visible, lay an expired VIP courthouse parking permit from her previous vehicle. Her phone buzzed again. Emergency conference. Landmark civil rights case. Her vote was needed. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time," Miller said, his patience theatrical for the cameras. "How did you come to possess this vehicle?" "It belonged to my father," Evelyn replied. "Judge Robert Reed." Miller's expression didn't change. Names meant nothing without proof, and proof was exactly what he intended to demand. "Anyone can claim anything. I need documentation." The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, "Judge Reed," and heads turned. The elderly woman tried again to step forward, but other bystanders held her back, unwilling to escalate the situation. Officer! A mall security guard approached, his radio crackling. Is everything under control here? Just processing a potential vehicle theft, Miller replied, calling for backup to assist with the search. Search! The word hit the crowd like electricity. Phones emerged from purses and pockets. The circle widened but tightened simultaneously, as if everyone understood they were witnessing something significant. Evelyn's briefcase sat in the back seat, its state Supreme Court seal facing away from the windows. Inside lay documents that could end this humiliation instantly, but reaching for them now would only escalate Miller's suspicions. Her phone buzzed a third time. She closed her eyes briefly, calculating. 10 minutes until her absence became a crisis. 10 minutes until a crucial vote on police accountability measures proceeded without the swing judge. The irony wasn't lost on her. Backups en route, Miller announced to his radio, requesting a supervisor for potential vehicle recovery. Chloe's live stream hit 847 viewers. Comments exploded across her screen. This is disgusting. Why won't someone help her? Where is this happening? Someone call the news. The elderly woman finally broke free from the crowd. Officer, that woman is... Ma'am. Final warning. Step back or you'll be arrested for interfering with police business. Evelyn watched the woman retreat, defeat in her eyes. Everyone who might recognize her courthouse staff, fellow attorneys, legal clerks was either at the emergency conference or avoiding weekend shopping. She was alone, surrounded by strangers whose phones captured every humiliating second. Miller keyed his radio again. Unit 47 requesting additional backup for vehicle search. The suspect is non-compliant and the crowd is growing hostile. Non-compliant. Hostile. The words would appear in his report, shaping the narrative before truth had a chance to emerge. Evelyn understood the power of language, the way it could transform a victim into a perpetrator with careful selection. Minutes remaining. Her portfolio lay just inches away, containing everything needed to end this nightmare. But reaching for it meant sudden movement, meant escalation, meant risking the very confrontation her judicial training taught her to avoid. So she waited, hands on the hood, cameras rolling, power hidden in plain sight. The wail of approaching sirens cut through the ambient buzz of the grove. 2 patrol cars rounded the corner, their blue and red lights painting the crowd in strobing, anxious shadows. Sergeant Davis emerged from the first vehicle, his 20 years of experience evident in his measured, cautious approach. Unlike Miller, he didn't see a suspect. He saw a situation spiraling out of control. What have we got? Frank Davis surveyed the scene, the pristine Mustang, the well-dressed woman with her hands on the hood, the volatile crowd of phone-wielding witnesses. Possible grand theft auto, Miller replied, puffing his chest out. Subject claims the car belonged to her father but can't provide documentation. Non-compliant. Davis studied Evelyn more carefully. Something felt off. Her posture wasn't one of guilt. It was one of strained patience. Her eyes weren't fearful. They were calculating. Ma'am, we're going to need you to step away from the vehicle while we sort this out, Davis said, his tone more reasonable than Miller's. The live stream exploded past 20,000 viewers. Chloe's phone battery dropped to 28%, but she couldn't stop. The comment section moved too fast to read, but she caught fragments. This is profiling. Justice for her. Wait. Is that Judge Reed's car? In the crowd, the elderly woman, Mrs. Eleanor Vance, finally found what she was looking for on her phone. Her face lit up as she recognized the photo on the courthouse website, the Honorable Judge Evelyn Reed, Superior Court. She pushed forward again, this time with a new fire in her eyes. Officer! Mrs. Vance called out, her voice carrying the authority of decades spent in courtrooms. That woman is Judge Evelyn Reed of the Superior Court. Miller paused, handcuffs halfway to Evelyn's wrists. He shot an annoyed look at the old woman. "Ma'am, I've warned you. I worked in the courthouse clerk's office for 40 years. Mrs. Vance continued, undeterred. "I know Judge Reed. Her father was Judge Robert Reed. He drove this exact car for 20 years. Just then, Miller's radio crackled with a new urgency. "All units, be advised. Courthouse security reports Judge Evelyn Reed is missing from the emergency session. All patrol units be on the lookout for a blue 1967 Ford Mustang. License plate JRR 1967. The color drained from Miller's face. Davis looked at the license plate. JRR 1967. Judge Robert Reed, 1967. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening thud. The confident demeanor, the precise legal language, the calm under pressure. He'd testified in Judge Reed's courtroom. Without the robes and the elevated bench, he hadn't recognized her. "Frank," Davis said quietly, his voice dangerously low. "Step back, now." But it was too late. Evelyn decided the time for waiting was over. "Officers," she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had commanded courtrooms for 15 years. "I'm going to reach for my identification now. You can watch my hands. You can follow protocol. But this ends here." "Ma'am, do not reach for anything," Miller blustered, but his voice wavered. "Let her," Davis said firmly. "Step back, Frank." The crowd held its breath. 53,000 viewers watched Chloe's live stream. The news camera that had just arrived rolled. Mrs. Vance smiled with grim satisfaction. Evelyn reached slowly toward her briefcase, her movements deliberate and visible. Her fingers found the leather portfolio, pulled it free, and flipped it open. The moment of truth had arrived. The leather portfolio opened with a soft snap. Inside, nestled against legal documents, lay a judicial identification card bearing the seal of the Superior Court, Judge Evelyn Reed, Superior Court, Criminal Division. The silence was absolute. Officer Miller's face transformed from confident authority to dawning horror. "Officer Miller," Evelyn said, her voice now cold steel. "Badge number 4847. As I was trying to tell you, this vehicle belonged to my father. This is its registration, legally transferred to me from his estate." She produced the document. "And this," she held up the ID, "is who I am." The crowd erupted. "She's a judge! That cop is done for!" Davis stepped forward, a deep flush of embarrassment on his face. "Your Honor, we had no idea." "Of course you didn't," Evelyn replied, closing the portfolio. "Because you saw a black woman with an expensive car and made an assumption based on prejudice, not evidence." "I was following protocol," Miller finally managed to say, his voice a pathetic whisper. "Was it protocol to ignore a witness who tried to identify me?" Evelyn gestured to Mrs. Vance. "Was it protocol to threaten arrest for asking to provide identification?" She held up her phone, showing the missed calls from the Chief Justice. "Or was it protocol to detain a sitting judge, causing her to miss a crucial vote on police accountability?" The situation had already spiraled, but Evelyn wasn't done. This was no longer just about her humiliation. This was about something much older, much darker. "Officer Miller," she said, her tone shifting, "the reason I'm driving this car today isn't just because it was my father's. It's because of what's inside it." She reached into the portfolio again, but this time she pulled out a different folder. It was old manila, the edges soft and yellowed with age. She opened it on the hood of the Mustang. "My father, Judge Robert Reed, was investigating something before he died. A cold case. He kept his files in a hidden compartment in this car." She pressed a small, almost invisible button under the dashboard. A section of the glove box clicked open, revealing a hollow space. "He never trusted banks or offices. He trusted American steel. Inside the old folder were faded photographs, typed notes, and copies of old police reports. He was investigating a corruption case from 20 years ago, Evelyn announced, her voice ringing out for the crowd and cameras to hear. A case where a young LAPD officer allegedly took a bribe to tamper with evidence, allowing a major drug trafficker to walk free on a murder charge. My father believed that officer was responsible for a miscarriage of justice. He was close to proving it when he had his heart attack. Miller stood frozen, his face a mask of stone, but a flicker of panic, deep and primal, ignited in his eyes. Davis looked at the folder, then at Miller, a new, sickening suspicion dawning on him. Evelyn's gaze was relentless. She held up a grainy photograph from the file. It showed a much younger officer, cocky and smiling, standing next to the very drug trafficker who had been acquitted. "You know, Officer Miller," Evelyn said, her voice dangerously soft. "This traffic stop, I don't think it was random at all. I think you recognized my father's car. I think you knew exactly what might be inside it. And I think you created this very public, very loud scene to give you a pretext to search the vehicle and destroy this folder for good." She turned the photograph around so the news camera could get a clear shot. "Do you recognize this young man, officer, because I do? His name was Frank Miller." The revelation hung in the air, thick and explosive. The live stream, now with over 150,000 viewers, went into a frenzy. The narrative had shifted from racial profiling to a deep-seated conspiracy. This wasn't just a traffic stop. It was the desperate act of a man trying to bury his past. Miller's composure shattered. The predator had become the prey. His face, once a mask of arrogant authority, was now a canvas of raw panic. He saw his life, his career, his freedom, all evaporating under the harsh Los Angeles sun. "That's a lie! A setup!" he yelled, his voice cracking. He took a step back, his eyes darting around for an escape route. He was trapped by the crowd, the cameras, and the ghost of a 20-year-old crime. In a move of pure desperation, he lunged, not at Evelyn, but at the person closest to him, Chloe, the student who was still live streaming, her phone a beacon broadcasting his downfall to the world. He grabbed her, yanking her in front of him as a human shield. His hand went to his holster, and this time, he drew his weapon. "Everybody back up!" he screamed, his voice shrill with terror. "Back up now." The crowd gasped and stumbled backward. Sergeant Davis immediately drew his own weapon, his voice a commanding bark. "Frank, don't do it! Put the gun down, it's over!" Other officers took cover behind their vehicles. A tense standoff now unfolding in the middle of a luxury shopping center. Chloe whimpered in Miller's grasp, her phone still clutched in her hand, the camera now pointing erratically at the sky, then at Miller's contorted face. The world was watching a hostage situation unfold live. But Evelyn Reed did not panic. The courtroom was her battlefield, and she was its most seasoned general. She held up a hand to Davis, a silent command to hold fire. "Officer Miller," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, calm and measured. "Let the girl go." "You stay back," he shrieked. "You did this, you and your dead father." "My father sought justice, Frank. That's all this is," she said, taking a slow, deliberate step forward. "Think about what you're doing. You have a traffic stop that escalated. That's a civil rights violation, maybe a few years suspension. Now you've added kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon. That's a life sentence. Is that what you want?" She was no longer speaking to him as a victim, but as a judge, laying out the stark, brutal legal consequences of his actions. "You have a family, Frank, a wife, 2 kids in high school. I saw the photo in your locker at the precinct when I was there for a judicial tour. Do they deserve to see their father throw his life away over a 20-year-old mistake? Miller's resolve began to crumble. His grip on Chloe loosened slightly. He was a cornered animal, and Evelyn was offering him an out, however small. It was in that moment of hesitation that another force of justice intervened. Mrs. Eleanor Vance, the retired court clerk, had been circling the edge of the chaos. She was not a woman to be trifled with. With the fury of a lioness protecting her pride, she saw her opening. She swung her heavy leather handbag, the one filled with a hardback novel, a thermos, and 40 years of righteous indignation, and brought it down with surprising force on Miller's wrist. "You let that child go," she roared. The impact was jarring. Miller cried out in pain, his fingers spasming. The gun clattered to the asphalt. The sound broke the spell. In a flash, Sergeant Davis and 2 other officers tackled Miller to the ground, cuffing his hands securely behind his back. Chloe stumbled away, collapsing into the arms of a paramedic who had just arrived. It was over. The aftermath was a legal firestorm. Miller's arrest wasn't just news. It was a seismic event that shook the very foundations of the LAPD. Justice for the father, faced with overwhelming evidence from Judge Reed's files and a confession from a terrified Miller. The district attorney's office reopened the 20-year-old murder case. The drug trafficker, now a wealthy real estate developer living in Bel Air, was arrested. The cold case that had haunted Robert Reed's final days was finally closed. Evelyn had not only cleared her own name, but had also fulfilled her father's last quest for justice. Justice for the present. The scandal forced a top-to-bottom overhaul of the LAPD. An independent commission, co-chaired by a reluctant but respected Sergeant Davis, now promoted to lieutenant, was formed to root out corruption. Miller, facing a mountain of charges, took a plea deal. He testified against his former associates and the corrupt network within the department, leading to a dozen more arrests. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, a disgraced officer whose final act was to help clean the system he had polluted. Justice for the future. The incident transformed the lives of those caught in its wake. Chloe's live footage won a prestigious journalism award. With a full scholarship, she enrolled at USC's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. Her path now clear, she would be a voice for the voiceless. Mrs. Vance became a local hero, a symbol of citizen courage, and was appointed to a civilian oversight committee for the police department. Evelyn Reed, having proven her mettle under fire, was nominated by the governor to the state Supreme Court. She established the Judge Robert Reed Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to funding legal aid for wrongfully accused individuals and investigating cold cases of police misconduct. The final scene is not in a courtroom. It is several months later. Evelyn is behind the wheel of the 1967 Mustang, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the Pacific Coast Highway. The car runs smoothly, a faithful vessel carrying the legacy of one generation into the hands of the next. She is not heading to a courthouse or a conference. She is just driving, the wind in her hair, a small, genuine smile on her face. The weight of the past has been lifted. The future is an open road, and for the first time in a long time, she feels truly, completely free. Justice had been served. Thank you for following this story. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. If you'd like more inspiring stories about justice and resilience, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll be back tomorrow with another must-see story you won't want to miss.